Welcome to the Grap Up for September 2023. Your monthly blast of cold takes in the world of professional wrestling, available everywhere good podcasts are sold. I'm the Intrepid Traveller. I am Mark Robinson, and with me, as always, he is the editor over the Wrestling Observer, Brian Rose. Brian, I have to ask you, do you say 2023 or 2023?
2023. It's always been 1,000 and things like that.
Since we got into the 2020s, I can't. For some reason, it registers for me as 2021, 2022, 20, and that's it. So I'm doing it now.
That's how it is for some people. Some people go at 2023. Some people do 2023. I'm in the latter.
Like the idea of saying 2031, that's too long for me. I want to get the year out of the way and then get to whatever the fuck I'm trying to say. 2030, 2031. It's snappier, it's punchier, you know? Reads better on the title.
I can see that. But I guess it's just once you get to like 2010 or something, it's like, which one do you want to go with? And I went with 2010, 2011.
But oddly enough, if I recall, I'm fairly confident I was also saying 2010, 2013. Like it was something about the 2020 where my brain just went, nope, we've switched now. I don't know what it is. Maybe like something about kind of getting into my 30s that my brain was like, no, this is how we process numbers now. I don't know, but we can come back to this for another day. Brian, how are you? How's your September been?
It's been up and down, but I am feeling good right now at this moment. Just
how is the weather in CA this time of year?
It's improving. Last month has been very hot. I don't know if it was this month or last month, but we got hurricane actually, which I don't think has ever happened here. It was a tropical storm when it came here, so we just got dumped with a bunch of rain, which we don't see that often in
I imagine that's cause for celebration to get a bit of rain.
Kinda, but at the same time, it's like it was a lot of rain.
Okay.
And people had to deal with it, and we're not used to getting so much rain at once.
Right.
So it's like, we need rain, but we don't need this much.
The infrastructure isn't set up to deal with that sort of thing.
Exactly.
Like if New York can't handle fucking 2 centimeters or 2 inches of rain, and that at least has some sort of protection set up, God knows what you guys have had to deal with.
Yeah, well, we're not equipped like New York City, which I know had a bunch of rain recently.
I have to ask you because I think it's been a couple of months since I did last ask you this, but what have you been playing lately?
Oh, I haven't been playing like too much for whatever reason. I'm just kind of like waiting for Switch games in the fall. Like, where's
the Super Mario RPG remake? I imagine is high on the list.
That is absolutely high on the list. Super Mario Wonder. I'm looking forward to playing. Those are two big Mario games. Yeah, Elephant Mario. Like I'm excited for that game because it looks, unlike the new Super Mario Brothers series, which is very ironically named because they kept releasing like 3 or 4 of them that were pretty much the same. Even though they're all great games, because I don't think there's such a thing as a bad 2D Mario game. I think all of them are great, but they're
2D Mario is like pizza.
Yeah.
Like even a bad one is still
still pretty good.
Still pizza.
Yeah. And this one actually looks like they're taking things in a new direction, kind of. Even though some of it still it's 2D Mario, but they are going in a new direction. There's always clever ideas with Mario games, so I'm looking forward to it. And Super Mario RPG, I mean, it's one of my favorite games of all time. So seeing a remake, I'm just so excited to jump in and play it. I hope there's a little bit more new than the trailers have shown out so far. But even if it's just straight up playing the regular game, I'm fine with it. And I think there's like a post game mode where you can refight the bosses and stuff. So there is some new stuff.
Over the years, I have started that game, I want to say on about 5 separate occasions. And I would say I've never got more than about 2 to 3 hours into it.
Really?
Now, over the years, that it's
very straightforward.
It is. I can't explain why. I think earlier on in my game playing career, if you will, JRPGs, RPGs, they weren't really my go-to, so my attention span for them wasn't particularly great. I've gotten better at that over the years. I've played more JRPGs. I'm currently playing Sea of Stars, which is very much trying
I've
to,
played a little bit. I haven't gone that far.
I'm kind of getting closer towards the end of that game, and I very much enjoyed that. Though with that, I never played Chrono Trigger, so I don't know how. Even though I know that's kind of like a big source of inspiration, I don't know
Yeah.
how much it apes off of that.
It definitely graphically inspires Chrono Trigger.
Yeah, but yeah, just with Mario RPG, I never got around to it, and it wouldn't be until like the Paper Mario games, which
Yeah.
is, I guess, a kind of spin-off of a spin-off. But like the Origami King Paper Mario, I thought was tremendous. I really enjoyed that. So
I have played a little
yeah,
bit of it. I didn't get that far.
that game is really good. I really like that.
For
So,
whatever
but
reason, I cleared Super Mario RPG because it was one of the first RPGs I've ever played, like
I'd
played
imagine
through.
so. Yeah,
And it was very simple and straightforward, and I didn't get lost in a map because it's like very linear in terms
yeah.
of where you need to go and stuff. So it's that was my thing back in the day. So and it did inspire me to go into Final Fantasy and Chrono Trigger and all these other JRPGs that came out during that time. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to play Paper Mario though. I like this series, but I've never beaten one. I don't know why.
I actually didn't beat one until Origami King, because I did have Super Paper Mario for the Nintendo Wii. I remember having that game specifically, and I was enjoying it. And then I just got to a point where I just didn't play it anymore. It is on my list. I have a, shall we say, a modified Nintendo Wii.
Ah,
So I've been meaning to go back and give that another run, because the first thing I did, because naturally when you have a modded Wii, the first two things you're going to do is play Wii Sports and to Mario Galaxy.
yeah.
But yeah, the Paper Mario, the Wii one is on the list, and I never played Thousand Year Door, and I know that they've got the remake for that coming next year, so that's also probably where I'll play that for
And
the
it
first
looks
time when I played it.
great.
Yeah.
And I don't know if I played through Paper Mario. I played through Paper Mario 2, but I didn't. Maybe I got towards the middle of the games, but I don't think I got towards the end. So I don't know. Maybe I'll try it again. But with Paper Mario, I'm kind of disappointed in the recent games because it's like, they have guidelines now, so like all the characters are kind of the characters that aren't Mario are kind of nondescript, and it's much more, it's much less RPG and more, um, I don't know, more other stuff. Not so much on RPG, but other mechanics.
I would say dive a little bit more into Origami King because
Origami King, I think, is a little bit more RPG-ish than the
yeah,
other
it
games, like
fuses
Color
like a bunch of
Splash.
things. Oh yeah, I mean that was like a throwaway 3DS thing. So
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah.
Right. Anyway, let's get on to the wrestling and where to start. I'll tell you what. Let's cast our minds back all the way to the start of the month. Do you remember a little show called All Out?
I do. It was probably one of the better shows of the year, actually.
We last month spoke about All In at London Wembley, which may as well have been a freaking lifetime ago now.
Yeah,
We also last month spoke about the fallout of CM Punk being fired from the company. Surprisingly, since then, we really haven't heard
no,
anything, and it does kind of feel like, and I say more specifically from CM Punk's side, it does kind of feel like he's just happy to just let this be gone and move on with his life and move on to the next thing.
I guess he's
And
ready to move on. There's
it,
no talk of lawsuits, which we were wondering about last month.
exactly, and I think both sides are just happy to just drop this and move on with their lives.
Yep.
And it's probably for the betterment for everyone involved. Now, does that mean that Punk has wrestled his last match? Who knows?
There's
Um,
going to be WWE rumors for a long time until he either shows up or he just says, I'm not going out or I'm retired.
yeah. I can see a case for, like, if he's gonna do anything, it really is only that. Like, I can hear people talk about, we would welcome CM Punk into the Impact Zone. You can fucking say that all day long. It's not going to happen.
No.
So yeah, unless like they fucking decide that New Japan are gonna have him at the Tokyo Dome, which just seems like that would be a weird fit. I don't feel like New Japan is kind of made for Punk. So yeah, I kind of feel like this might be it, and I just hope that he can. I don't know. I just hope that this is out of his system, or he can just learn to get this out of his system and just be happy and healthy and just just live the rest of his life in peace is all I ask for.
Sure.
But Lord knows he'll find a way to antagonize himself and everyone around him.
Yeah, I am sure that this is not the last we've heard of CM Punk.
Hmm.
I think that's best said.
Anyway, so All Out from Chicago, having a week after All In. Business wise, this, because one of the things people were talking about was that how would this do business wise, having two pay-per-views a week apart from each other. It turns out that All Out didn't take the hit that most people were thinking and actually did fairly well. I still don't think that doing two pay-per-views back to back like this is a great idea.
I don't like
Just
it.
no, just in terms of like the booking, because it's such a trying to book for one show with another show happening the week after. Like it's messy, and I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan of it
It's
at
a
all.
lot. It's a
Yeah.
lot to take in. It's getting to the point where we have now WWE has 3 shows a week. AEW has 3 shows a week. Now we have to wonder which of these shows are going to have another show on the weekend. It's a lot. It's a lot to take in already, and to do 2 pay-per-views in a row in 2 weeks, it's just overkill. It's like getting to the point where people don't have time for all this. They really don't.
And the thing is I do get it from the sense that like the last weekend of the month in August in the UK is always a bank holiday. Um, I've always known this because there's a music festival that I used to go to called the Reading and Leeds Festival, and that was always the last weekend of August. So that's going to be the thing that like Wembley next year. I think I want to say it's the same weekend. I might be saying this and now I'm totally wrong. But
Something like that.
but it makes sense to do that for that reason. Obviously, it makes it a lot easier for people to get in, makes it a lot easier for people to stay an extra night and then not have to worry about getting back. um so there is that, and then obviously All Out is over Labor Day weekend, so there's going to be no flexibility on that, and I just kind of feel like you've just got to take the hit on one of these. You've done Chicago enough. You can move fucking like if you want to have a pay-per-view in Chicago every year, like you have options. You could do Forbidden Door in Chicago every year if you wanted to. It just, yeah, it's a bit overkill, but business-wise, they seem to do it all right. So I think at least for next year, they'll do it again. But considering the way business is going at the moment, specifically tickets wise, maybe next year it might be different, but that's a year away. So
Yeah.
on the show, I'm not going to do a full run through of everything. I'm just going to kind of pick out the things that I thought that were worth mentioning. If I miss anything, by all means, please stop me. Um, I thought that Luchasaurus and Darby Allin had a just tremendous uh, David and Goliath style match. Probably one of the stronger matches that Luchas. Not that he's had a lot of singles matches, but just a perfect pairing. Darby Allin has no concerns about being thrown around, and Luchasaurus just really fucking put the boots into Darby in this one. Just an incredibly physical, uncomfortably violent 12-minute match from these two.
Yeah. Darby Allin, he's someone who is just destroying himself for these kind of matches. It reminds me a lot of Mick Foley in a way where you're just destroying your body to have these incredible matches. And this was a very good match. And it was a lot of that was because Darby Allin just works his ass off, and it was a very hard hitting match. He took a bunch of sick bumps. Um, You know, it's also like we're not going to talk about it so much, but this past weekend at WrestleDream, that was a brutal match as well. And yeah, I mean, Darby Allin is really, really good, but I also wonder, like, how long is he going to last? Because you can't take this much assault on your body for too long.
Yeah, and by the time we get to the show next month, we'll be talking about
Oh,
the main event of WrestleDream, which was even more violent. And
yes.
by the time we get to that, he would have climbed and hopefully come
Oh
down from
yeah.
Mount Everest.
Is
So
that this month?
I believe so. Yeah.
Oh,
That look, that man is living a speed that works for him.
he's living fast.
Wish indeed. But yeah, this was really strong. Miro and Powerhouse Hobbs had a match that started off fairly okay, and then
The
one of
crowd
those
got into it.
matches that was, I don't want to say saved by the crowd, but certainly enhanced by the crowd,
Yeah.
who decided to channel the spirit of Big E Langston in his infamous discussion about wanting to have a match with Goldberg. Not because that match would be any good, but because it was just big meaty men slapping meat. And hey, that's what we got. These two slapped some meat, and this was good fun. And it's, you look at like that match and then what we've had over the past month since, and it just, this whole like run of Miro in AEW has been really, like, him and Malachi Black and Andrade, actually, like these three people that came over from WWE. Now I understand with Miro that he had his like neck injury which had him out for a year, but there's been such a weird stop start nature to him where he'll just like appear for 1 week and then he'll be gone for 6 months. And like
Yeah.
he, had this match and then he's been around still doing promos backstage and
I
whatnot. But
I don't know if is it like the thing with Miro is he doesn't want to do jobs? Is it that's like the thing that is being bandied about?
well, he shouldn't be doing jobs. Like I wouldn't have him do
I
jobs.
agree. I agree, but it's like it's very weird where it's like they always start with him, but they have like no idea what they want to do with him. There's some story going on with him and CJ that they have not explained very well, and it's going very slow. And I don't really know the direct. I guess it's going to be a storyline where she gets somebody to manage, and he's not happy, and he's probably going to feud with the guy who she's going to manage. I think that's the storyline. The problem is that it's very stop and start, and it's been very slow to advance for whatever reason. And you know what? If Miro doesn't want to do jobs, then I don't think he's a character where he has to do too many jobs. I don't think he's ever in trouble too much, but it's like he should be on TV every week. He should be doing stuff. He could be just be doing promos. He doesn't have to do a match.
Well, I
And
mean, there's been a
he's
little
not
bit of
even
that.
on TV. I wouldn't say. I think he's on most weeks, but not every week.
Yeah, and I don't care for this Lana slash CJ Perry
No,
character. Yeah, I'm just not for it. It's not
they
for
didn't
me.
even give her a name for like the first 2 weeks. It's just that's Miro's wife. Okay,
Yeah,
she can have a name, you know. And they
yeah,
decide on CJ.
it's not for me. But
Yeah.
hey, they've got her, and they're gonna do the storyline, and I don't know. And Powerhouse Hobbs is someone also who's suffered from being part of when he was first brought in and he was part of Team Taz and there was some momentum there with him. Then he got lumped into the whole
He's the
QT
part of the
Marshall.
start stop. But now they
Yeah,
put him with the Don Callis family, so they've started with him again.
which I think, he's not the like, his presence is very much in the physical sense, not so much in his like mic abilities. So
Yeah.
putting him with Don Callis is a smart idea, but the whole QTV thing was just death from day one. So
It's not he's much more better than that.
yeah.
That's much more of a comedy thing they can put on Rampage every week. That's it's not a marquee thing that he should be involved in. And that's good that they got him out of that.
Bryan Danielson defeated Ricky Starks in a strap match, which was put together at the last minute because of obviously the whole thing with Punk. And then these two just ended up having one of the better matches of the year. And I don't know, Bryan Danielson's up to how many 5-star matches this year? It's ridiculous.
He's had 2 in the last month. I would probably give the Sabre match also a 5, maybe. Because that was also an excellent match, but this was also a bloody, brutal, incredible match. Just astonishingly great for someone who's just coming back from a broken arm, and he looked incredible. Ricky Starks looked incredible. They battled it out. There's blood everywhere. Everything you'd want to see in a match like that, in a strap match. It was very brutal, very brutal.
The actual like whipping with the strap and
Yeah.
just whacking each other in the face. I am here for this shit. That's the kind of thing I'm here for. And again, someone else, Ricky Starks, this whole kind of start-stop thing, like they had the face turn with him early this year. He had the match with MJF, and you kind of got the sense that they were getting to that point of elevating him to like the next level. And then he went into the feud with Jay White that just seemed to go on for a day and age, and it just seemed like the company wasn't committed to putting one guy over. It was one of those things where it's a feud where no one actually got over, and actually both guys probably regressed as a result. And Jay White had to kind of work back through like the stuff with FTR to get him back to where he is now, and Ricky Starks had to turn heel again and go in this direction. So
Yeah, the thing with Ricky Starks is he was really hot as a babyface, but then they just kind of like sputtered, and then he just turned heel, and he's still a pretty hot act. But I don't know why he felt much hotter as a babyface.
I do think that he's not to the same degree. Like Sammy Guevara is always just going to be a heel. Like he just everything about him is
he's a natural
heel.
heel.
Yeah, I think Ricky Starks is more of a heel, like naturally, than a face, but he has, and we've seen it, can do the fiery babyface style promo and comeback. But I do think that his comfort zone probably is more as a heel, just that kind of arrogant, that slice of the sort of 98 era of The Rock, that kind of just arrogant persona comes through a lot more naturally. But I do think that if you were to turn either him or Guevara face tomorrow, you would do Starks. And yeah, it is kind of weird that like they did the turn back so quickly, but I do think that partially again, I think the damage was done with that Jay White feud. That if he'd have gone in another direction instead of doing the Jay White feud, and he'd found someone else that was more suited for like this, whether like a Christian Cage or something, like if he'd have feuded with him, I think Starks would have been better off as a face, and probably would still be a face if that was the case. But never mind. Here we are. What else? Konosuke Takeshita defeated Kenny Omega in a very good match. I don't think it was the best match that these two could have.
I thought it was very, very, very good, but it wasn't the best match on the show.
No, and I think partially because I watched, I've watched a fair bit of Takeshita now in this heel role. I watched he had a match in DDT, a singles match. God, I can't remember who he was against. And I feel like just like his style of wrestling. Again, you're talking about like who naturally fits a certain style. I think that he's kind of flashy style of wrestling is probably better served as a face.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
And like they've put this character onto him, and they've definitely given him
Push.
more of a push and more of a direction in terms of his character than he's had before up until this point. But I do think that his style of wrestling and what he was doing was like so much more engaging when he was a face. When you think about either like the
he
Bryan
does
Danielson
come
match
off
earlier
as
this
more.
year.
He did come off as more engaging when he was a face, and as a heel, he's fine, but like I don't know. It's more Don Callis than Takeshita.
Yeah.
Because Takeshita can't really like do promos.
But he doesn't need to. He doesn't need to, you know?
But I don't know. It's just he's not on TV every week having like great matches like he used to.
Yeah.
Even though he had a pretty good match this week on TV, but
Yeah.
it's more building a character, I guess. And the character's fine, but I was kind of more engaged with him when he was a babyface, having all these
Absolutely.
great matches with like Moxley and Danielson and so forth.
The Hangman Page match when Page was champ was tremendous.
That was awesome.
Yeah. But it's probably one of those things that, like, with this, they can use that to build him up as more of a kind of character that people understand and register with, and then hopefully, you know, in the future turn him face, and then get back to what he was doing before, but now with that kind of added layer of the audience really understanding who he is. Maybe. And in the main event, I don't think, surprisingly, I think like the way that this was built up, this was probably the right match to have on last. But the AEW International Championship was the main event, with Jon Moxley defeating Orange Cassidy, ending arguably the best title reign that this company has had up until this point.
By far. Orange Cassidy did such a tremendous job building that title. Because when it was first introduced, I was like, "Do we need another title in AEW?"
I mean, I would still argue that we don't.
I would, yeah, and I would still argue that in the end we don't. But this title sure means something more now than it did before Orange Cassidy won it. It headlined the show. It was a brutal, hard-hitting match that was excellent. And Jon Moxley, it needed to be somebody big. It needed to be somebody big who finally ended Orange Cassidy's run with this title, which I think he had held for almost a year. And it finally ended. Moxley won the title, and it was a big moment. It was a big moment to close out the show. So I thought everything there was very well done. It's just too bad. Mox lost the title like a week later, or a few weeks later, due to injuries.
And I think the thing with this match and the overall reign of Orange Cassidy as this champion is that, not that I ever put any weight into when people said this, but it does lay to bed this idea that AEW don't tell stories. I mean, currently they tell a lot of stories, but they also are telling a lot of bad ones. But with this, there was this very natural, organic, and easy to understand story of this guy who was defending this belt week after week, and his body was breaking down, and you could see it. And it wasn't, hit over your head, but, 1 week he'd come out and the hand was wrapped up. And then the next week he'd come out and he's got the kinesio tape all over him. And you could see that
he would say he's very tired.
Yeah, exactly. Like yeah. And it was just building and building. And, the commentators would kind of lean into this, saying that, hey, this guy's been wrestling kind of nonstop. His body is breaking down. He's wrecked. And it all led to this where he simply just he couldn't go anymore, and he came across like the most vicious, badass, like just fucking monster to come across, being Jon Moxley, who just has zero sympathy, zero empathy, and was just going to maul this guy. But out of that as well, Cassidy lost nothing in defeat, and if not, gained more by going toe to toe with Jon Moxley, going into like Moxley's element of being incredibly just physical and violent and bloody. And when he started doing, the kind of the types of kicks that he would do as Cassidy, but then actually really started kicking into Moxley's face, for me, that's one of the moments of the year. Like that moment will kind of be ingrained in me because of like just this final kind of evolution of Orange's character, of going from this kind of lackadaisical, sloth-like fucking wrestler to just, giving everything that he's got. And I think the only thing that frustrates me about it is that everything they've done with him since is absolutely not what I would have done with him. I would have kept him off TV for 2 to 3 months and bring him back, like now at that next level. And instead they've kind of brought him back down again. And I don't know. I don't understand. And it actually kind of annoys me that they've done this.
Yeah. I don't know. It is weird that with some people they get a push, then there's a big match, then they either lose or win, and then it's like, well, now we're back here. It's like, no, I think you can go with them a little bit more at that level, but sometimes they just, I don't know with AEW sometimes. Some things there are stories being told, but sometimes they just stop right after the show and they never get told again. It feels weird when they stop storylines to just restart storylines and start new storylines. It's kind of weird.
Yeah, and it's surprising because Tony Khan does have a track record of having these long-term stories that he wants to play out.
Yeah.
And sometimes, obviously, he's forced a bad hand. He's had to work with the cards that have been given to him. But this seemed like such an easy layup of like, right, you've done this arc with Orange now. You give him those couple of months, which in fairness, he probably just deserves to take a bit of time off and just kind of chill out. And then you bring him back, you get that pop. Whether you do the rematch with Moxley, like I'm fine with him coming out the week after, or the Wednesday after the pay-per-view to say like, hey, I'm tired, I'm banged up, I'm going to go away for a while now. And then he comes back in a couple of months and they do the thing with Moxley, or he goes to the TNT title, whatever the case may be. But
And now he's just teaming with Hook.
Yeah, it's just not. I don't get it.
I don't know. They don't have anything in the cards for him, even though I think like him versus MJF or something like that would be a good pay-per-view match, especially now that they're going to probably go 12 shows a month or a year. So
I don't know if they will go to 12. That seems
it feels like that's happening because there's already talk of a December show and they've had a show every month. I don't think they had a July show, but it feels like they've been having a show every month. If you want to also include ROH, I think ROH had a show in July.
I honestly I forget Ring of Honor is a thing at this point. Until they announce the next pay-per-view.
When I first heard about the ROH stuff, I'm like, you know what, that's good because it gives people, another place to go and work. The problem is that they don't have a TV deal, so they're just shooting TV for Honor Club in what feels like a black void because nobody's watching it. The talent on that show, there's the champions who are all names, but there's also a bunch of people who used to work on AEW Dark and are not what I would call marquee matchups. There's international talent sometimes, but I don't know. It's just not. With AEW already having like 5 hours of TV a week, watching Ring of Honor for these storylines that are just kind of going places, it's not compelling TV, and it's like I'm not getting the point of Ring of Honor anymore because there doesn't seem to be much going on, and if there is anything going on, it's not connecting with most people. It's connecting to a very, very small amount of people who just want to watch more wrestling for some reason on even though there's hours and hours and hours of wrestling already.
But also anything that happens that's significant with Ring of Honor is also happening on AEW television.
Yeah.
Like you had the Ring of Honor.
No, there used to be a period where they didn't have Ring of Honor championships defended on that show, but now it's like every week there's a ROH.
Yeah, it's like on Rampage they're doing a thing for
a 4-way for the ROH title, match
like,
for the title.
What the fuck are we doing? Yeah, I wish that those two things had been separated properly, but I mean, honestly, I think you could make the argument that the whole thing should have just been folded and just you got the tape library and we work with that. But at the same time, hey, yeah, it is giving people work and it is giving people stuff to do, but it's the whole if a tree falls in a forest and no one's around to hear
that kind of mentality.
Yeah. Elsewhere for the month of September when it comes to AEW. The WrestleDream build, fairly okay. I wish that like there'd been more with like Zack Sabre Jr. and Bryan Danielson, because basically most of that build was done on the Wednesday or the Saturday before. And obviously, look, Zack's in another country, he's on the internet, but just some like online barbs, just some video packages here and there. I think you could have had like a week or two of just doing like clips of Zack Sabre Jr. So yeah, I imagine most people watching AEW know who he is, but just a reminder, a refresher about like who he is, how dangerous he is. I doubt you're going to show a match of his like on national television, but even just like a quick kind of clip form to kind of talk, like have Taz like go through and explain like this is why Zack is so dangerous, just to build up the match a little bit more, because it's a dream match. Like you're building it purely on like this is a dream match of like the last 10 years or so, but you didn't really lean into it until the Saturday before, and the rest of the month it was Danielson was continuing his feud with Ricky Starks, which was very good, but it kind of felt backwards with that feud because they had like the big blow off match on pay-per-view and then kind of worked backwards from there.
Yeah, I thought that the build was okay. I mean, I guess they thought that putting Danielson and Sabre on just announcing it, that it was going to be this big deal, and it was a big deal between two of the biggest technical wrestlers of the last 20 years or so. And I think that there could have been more stuff, but I think they thought that that this was going to be purely a match built on the idea of you're going to see this match and it's going to be a technical masterclass, which it was. And I think they thought that was going to be like the big appeal and not so much promos and video packages and stuff like that, which I think on one hand that's okay, but on the other hand, you can do that and also do video packages and really go out of your way to hype this up as being this big dream match, which it was, and it delivered. But it could have been built better. I do agree with that.
And the thing is as well, Zack Sabre Jr. is like a pretty decent promo now. He's really found his voice when it comes to like his delivery and his tone. And so again, you could easily, and like when he was there on commentary watching Danielson's match, he was giving out these barbs and talking about how he was gonna like break Danielson down and being an effective heel. And yeah, it was just frustrating that they had to leave it all to the last week. But again, I understand that he's on a different continent and that can cause like logistical challenges. I thought that the stuff with Swerve and Page was really good. Like I thought that match, that is kind of what I need from like AEW, like a feud where the build up for it is perfectly logical.
Yes.
But it doesn't go on for about 12 weeks. There's like a 3-4 week window. They both get their wins. They both get their they're both build up. So you go into that match like saying, "Hey, you can make an argument for either to these two guys winning." And you have like decent promos and just a thumbs up like across the board, the feud, and when we get to the match next month, just thumbs up across the board for this.
Yeah. The promo was great. Swerve Strickland with Prince Nana is a very great duo. They are great with each other, and Swerve is a very, very good promo. I thought he was excellent in that promo on Dynamite. And, he won at WrestleDream. He should be someone who should be, going to that next step. And I guess he is, because next week he's going to face Bryan Danielson on Title Tuesday, going head to head with NXT. And I don't see AEW doing well going to a different day, and WWE sure went out of their way to stack that card. John Cena's going to be there. Cody Rhodes is going to be there. They really wanted to win that week, and
they really want to they want to cash a receipt for 2020 or 2019, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
they sure do.
Speaking of NXT, I guess we can do No Mercy now, because
I
that
watched the
was
top 2 matches. I
yeah.
saw some of the undercard, but it's not like too much to talk about.
I glanced.
The story is the main 2 matches, I think.
I did glance over some of the rest of the card, but yeah, for the most part, there isn't really much of substance there. Um, I guess the one thing that's kind of surprising about these shows is how condensed they are. Now, I don't know anything about the business of these kind of NXT PLEs that they're doing now. But like they had an attendance of 4,954. I don't know if that's a worked attendance. But
Sounds about right.
but this show, like, you got 7 matches. The first 3 are under 10 minutes. And you've got like the last 4, no matches going over like 21 minutes. Like, this is a fairly kind of compact show. And I'm curious about like what the ticket price for an NXT PLE is compared to like a WWE main event show.
Like ticket prices?
Yeah.
I don't know. I would assume it's a little cheaper than WWE
You would
shows
hope.
because they're going to a smaller arena. So I don't know.
Yeah.
And it's not like NXT. Well, they are much harder than they were last year, but
For sure,
and
for
WWE
sure,
for
but still.
WWE in general is very hot right now. So I can see them selling out stuff. And I don't know what kind of the ticket prices are. I would assume they're cheaper than main roster stuff, but I don't know. I've seen some of their. I saw WrestleMania tickets recently, and they are out of this world expensive now. So
I don't even want to know.
I don't really want to know either. I remember going in a few years ago at New Jersey. They said New York, but it was in New Jersey,
It was New Jersey.
and I ended up getting in for 500. So I don't even know. And I knew it was a decent seat, but it was pretty up there.
Yeah.
So I don't even want to know what the nosebleeds are now. It's probably more expensive.
I mean, I spent several £100 for the Cardiff show last year. And yeah, I can't imagine like what a WrestleMania ticket would be in comparison. And I'm concerned as well, like when AEW come back to Wembley next year, like I think I paid, I want to say about 100 to 150 for the ground seat that I was on. It wasn't the best view because I was quite far back and on the ground.
Yeah.
And like if that seat like next year is like £200, I just don't want to go. I just don't want to spend more money.
I would think that they would be cheaper tickets because I don't think they're going to get 80,000 people in there like this year.
Well, maybe they think that they can get slightly less people in, but with a raised ticket price,
Maybe.
have a higher gate would be my presumption.
I think that's
But
possible.
we'll see. And you know what? It might be in a case that like fucking a week out from the show, they're desperately trying to sell tickets and I can get them on the cheap. So I think that, like compared to this year where they didn't have like an official sellout, I do think I might kind of take my time next year and see like closer to the day, because I was like on one of the pre-sale listings, and that's yeah, I think I can wait next year. So that'll be my plan. Anyway, No Mercy. So yeah, Ilya Dragunov became the NXT champion, defeating Carmelo Hayes in a match where I think it would have been a fairly obvious thing to say that Ilya Dragunov is one of the top 5 workers in the company and has been for the bulk of the time he's been there.
I would think he's one of the top 5 wrestlers in the world based on some of these matches he's had recently.
I mean, like him and Carmelo Hayes have had this series. Dragunov also had the match with Wes Lee to get this match that was really good. But there's just a physicality to Dragunov and the way, and he's always been this way, where everything just looks like it's the most painful version of a maneuver that he could do that has half a chance of fucking wiping him out as much as it is his opponent. And I just watched him and I was like, I'm so glad I don't have to be in there doing this, because this looks like it sucks. But just also the kind of match that legitimizes Carmelo Hayes in the way that I think he struggled with as champion. Ironically, the thing that legitimizes him is in his losing match. But like if they were to bring up Hayes tomorrow, I'd be like, yeah, you probably do want to go up off the back of this match. And I guess I'm also surprised that they went with Dragunov, considering that now they have, tweaked his character. So the kind of Russian Tsar elements of and hammer and sickle elements of his character have been dialed down.
They don't push he's from Russia because
No.
they don't want to get political, I guess.
So it does. I don't want to. Does it surprise me? Maybe it surprises me that he's now the champion. I don't know. He's too fucking good to not be at the top of the card. So
yeah, he's one of the best workers they have on that roster. So it makes sense. So, and he's a good promo. He has a good intensity. He is I think worthy of being NXT champion. I don't know how he would do on the main roster. That's always much more of a bigger question than being in NXT, where if you're really good, you get push. I don't even know how Carmelo Hayes would do on the main roster, because he's been featured a few times and they had him lose, which for no real reason. So I always think and both of them are not that tall, so I think that's always going to be a strike against them on the main roster, because there's always been a lot of great workers in NXT who get called up, and then it's like, what do we do with them? It's like, who knows? I think with Triple H things have changed a little bit, but not a lot. So we'll see. We'll see where these two go. But for that night at No Mercy, they had an excellent match, and Dragunov has been having excellent matches with a bunch of people. He had a great match with Trick Williams, who has something, who definitely has something. He's a great promo. Not still a little green, but he and Dragunov had a hell of a match a few weeks ago. So yeah, Dragunov's great, and I think he's great as champion. He had a great match here. It's things are looking up for him as far as being in NXT. So I think he should be champion for a long time.
And I think it's quite exciting as well. Like, you've got these two guys. I think the jury is out on Carmelo Hayes in terms of how far he can go. But you do have these two guys who are both 29. They're neither of them are 30 yet. They're still ways away from hitting their peak, even though I think Dragunov has been wrestling at a high level for a fair few number of years now, even
he has
pre
been for a while,
signing with WWE. So like, this is the kind of thing where you do look at the future of the company and be like, all right, they have at least got some guys here. They've got some people to work with, which it's kind of felt at times like they didn't have that. And certainly with NXT in particular, you think back to the Karrion Kross era, and I guess even like, Braun Breaker.
Braun was good, but not like great like these two.
I think the problem with Braun is he was there for the start of the whole NXT 2.0 thing.
Yeah.
And I think that really hurt him.
I think with Braun, it's like he started off and he was like excellent, and he only had like a few matches in, and he was very good for someone who had such limited experience. But then as time went on, he's improved, and I think he's better as a heel than he was as a face. But I don't know. There was, everyone was talking about he would be headlining WrestleMania and things like that, and I don't know. I don't know in terms of charisma if he's there at WrestleMania level. I think with a heel he might have something there, but it's far from certain where his future lies, because he's very good and he can have great matches, especially with great people. But I don't know if he's like WrestleMania level quality. There's not too many people there I would say are like, I can see them headlining WrestleMania. There's one person who I think might have a shot at that, and that's Trick Williams. But then I saw his promo on Raw, and he was very, very, very scripted, and his personality didn't come out as much as I've seen it on NXT. So I think he might have trouble like trying to channel WWE scripting and that. But I think someone like Trick Williams might be like the one person who I think could headline a WrestleMania. It just takes time, and he needs a lot more time, like in the ring and stuff. But he's an excellent promo.
Yeah, for sure. The main event was Becky Lynch defeating Tiffany Stratton in an Extreme Rules match to defend the NXT Women's Championship. And this was, like, there are elements of the WWE style of hardcore match that are frustrating in a world where, when you think of what AEW presents in terms of,
AEW does
a
so much
hardcore
more
match.
violent things. And with WWE, with hardcore WWE matches, they are very samey because you're never going to get approval to do something a little bit more dangerous that might require blood or something like that. So you're always going to end up with the same weapons, with the same kendo sticks, with the same chairs, with the same tables, and people love tables now for some reason. I don't know.
But with that said, this match had its moments and had some spots.
So it was a very good match.
Yeah, and I'm not going to be on the same bandwagon as some people talking about that Tiffany is like the package and has everything. Yes, obviously you look at her and she looks incredible.
There's something with her, obviously. There's something there, but not yet. Her working with other people, it's hit or miss. With Becky, I mean, Becky, it really showcases how great Becky Lynch is because she and Tiffany Stratton have had two really good matches now, and I mean, working with Becky Lynch, I think is going to do wonders for Stratton. But she's
doing wonders for the ratings, I'll tell you that.
And doing wonders for the ratings as well. But she's still far away. She needs to be here for at least another year.
Actually, just to harp on that there for a second, like, what do you make of, I guess, a combination of like the ratings war, if you will, but like NXT, their ratings over the past, it's been like 2 months now, 3 months, they've been doing this experiment of bringing people from the main roster. It does surprise me because I kind of felt like they were going to do this thing for a couple of weeks. You had Seth come down, defend the title against Braun Breaker. And then, there's been a continuation of different people. Now, next week is a bit of an outlier because they're just going full fucking guns blazing.
Yeah.
But I was thinking,
to say the least.
I was thinking, all right, you bring Becky down for 1 week and, you get a pop and then that's fine. But the fact that the ratings have kind of consisted around that sort of like 800,000 mark, I'm kind of shocked. And I do wonder when they, whether it's a case of like they get a deal with USA and then like once they've got the deal, right, everyone back to the main roster, we don't need to worry about this anymore. I do wonder like if the ratings will go back to where they were hovering around before or if they'll keep those people, because the thing is, right, I find the NXT product to be fairly interminable to watch. I find like the skits, the acting, the overall presentation, I can't really stand any of it. More crucially, more than anything else, I don't think there is a commentary team I have ever hated more than Vic Joseph.
I don't want to use the word hate.
No, Brian, you will. You will give me that fiery
is among
passion.
The worst. Is the worst. Is the worst.
And he's
found new things to be annoying at.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I hear that every other minute. It's so fucking annoying. He's fucking annoying on commentary. I'm sorry, but he is among the worst commentators.
And
he also, it's like he's been doing this for a few months now, probably more. He comes off like he has no idea what's going on. Like how like he's barely paying attention.
For 15 years.
Like he's just talking generalities. He's not putting over the storylines. He's if I hear one more thing about the airport test, I'm going to go crazy. If I hear one more thing about, oh yeah, I'm going to go crazy. It's the same thing. And there's people on Twitter who like this, and I'm like,
they're not real.
they can't be real. They can't be. You can't. And Brian Alvarez on Wrestling Observer Live thinks it's fun. I don't think it's funny. I think he's actively bad. I think he's among the worst commentators. Maybe not of all time, but out of everybody right now, aside from like, no, I would rather listen to Matt Striker. Honestly.
I mean, Striker, like the thing with Striker is there are times when he is fucking insufferable. Yeah. But there are times like I thought there were elements of him and Vampiro on Lucha Underground where I actually thought those two worked really well together.
I don't think Vampiro was ever that good, but
well, it was never great. But I also don't think that he actively detracted from the product. And I think that
maybe I'm thinking of a AAA show I watched once where he was just awful.
Yeah, no. Like in a much more kind of heavily produced environment like Lucha Underground, you can hide the worst tendencies of both.
Yeah, that was taped. I think this was live. I think Vampiro one day was live.
And I imagine he's gotten progressively worse since then.
He says he has Alzheimer's, but he's still like working.
Yeah,
I don't know how that works, but AAA is just like a vibe promotion where it's like you just watch for the vibes because stuff they announce doesn't happen. They start angles that never go anywhere. There's no real storylines to speak of. There's a few, but they either stop or start, and
there's vibes, but they're messy.
There's vibes, and then the audio issues are just bad, and the production is just bad,
But I would still rather listen to that than Vic Joseph and Booker T.
Yeah, right? I'd rather hear the Spanish commentary team, and the English commentary team is good too when you can listen to them.
Yeah, and like I could reel off a bunch of problems that I have with like main roster commentary as well, but I do think that Michael Cole and Barrett are totally serviceable.
Yeah, like they're fine.
There's the overproduction that you get, but it's fine.
I have no problems with main roster. I used to think Corey Graves was very annoying where, they clearly had him being the heel color commentator where he just carbon copied JBL, and JBL's thing was always to yell very loudly and drown everybody out. And I thought that was super annoying, but that's largely been dropped. And now they're just, it's fine. I don't think it's like good.
No,
but it's acceptable, and people have started to accept Michael Cole as the lead announcer guy after all these years that they've been pushing him as one.
Look, you push something down someone's throat hard enough, and the thing with Cole is that when he's not overproduced, and when he's not, because one of the biggest problems with WWE as a whole is that the whole thing. It feels very inauthentic. Nothing feels organic. No reaction ever feels organic.
Yeah, nothing ever feels. A lot of wrestling is based on having these organic thoughts, and WWE, it's like everything has to be produced and everything has to be this or that. They have to come up with words. They have to come up with superlatives all the time for all these wrestlers, and it's like, this doesn't feel real. This doesn't feel like this is happening organically. This is like you're like John Cena is now being billed as the greatest of all time, which you can argue that, I guess, but it's like when you just give it to him 1 week for no reason, it's like, and it feels inauthentic. It doesn't feel like he's earned that, even though you can argue about it. He's just now being billed as the greatest of all time, and it's like, who's saying that?
I mean, I have less of an issue with that because I guess, I've heard Ric Flair talk about how John Cena surpassed him and is the greatest of all time. So sure. I guess there's at least like a connection I can make there where I have less of an issue. But I'm just talking about like the reactions when someone returns, and like just the way that those reactions are done. And AEW is guilty of some of this as well. I just. Like I think back to say like when we talk about the SmackDown 6 from the sort of 2002 period, part of what actually makes all of that work is the fact that the commentary team of Michael Collins does a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
And it's a massively underrated part of that entire presentation. And by no means were they perfect. You know, Taz was still very early on Michael Cole was still fairly early on in his commentary career.
Both of them were.
But there was a kind of roughness and a rawness to it that was really appreciated. And you can't get that with the current product. And it's part of like the charm of the AEW commentary. Like the fucking John Moxley the other night on commentary, and just has an Excalibur trying to just deal with that hurricane to the right of them was some of the funniest commentary and WWE, like authentic, organic, like humor that you've seen in wrestling television for fucking ages.
Sometimes I just think they go too far. They have like 4 or 5 people on commentary sometimes, and it's like, I remember for years it was just 2 people. All you really need is 2 people on commentary. You don't need 4. You don't need 3. And I think WWE kind of started to do that too a little bit too much in the 2000s, and now everybody's doing it, and it's like, you don't need it. You need 2 people.
With that said, though, to get back to what we were talking about, Tiffany Stratton, I think that there is definitely something there. Obviously, the way she looks, she looks incredible.
She does.
And she's already wrestling at a pretty decent level for the amount of experience that she has.
She is good for NXT level. She's not ready for main roster.
No, but being in there with the likes of Becky Lynch is going to help her. And hey, you know, look, the ratings being what they are, whatever this strategy that they're going with is working. Even fucking Dominic Mysterio is popping a number, and I don't know what fucking darkest timeline I'm living in for that to be the case, but this is where we are. So, yeah. This might be the strangest thing. People talk about stranger things have happened. I don't think things are stranger than Dom Mysterio being a ratings draw. There you go. Yeah, this was a good match, a violent match, but in a different sort of way where you have got that little bit of polish. But stuff like, you know, when Tiffany did the moonsault off the ring, landed on the floor like below, kind of backwards rolled into that straight into the rock bottom, like, you know, like things that are athletically very impressive, and also probably that kind of like bump that you do trying to roll through a moonsault from that height, that can't be pleasant on the back, the legs, the knees. I certainly wouldn't want to do that.
Yeah, that was a crazy spot. That was one of the spots I remember. Just a really good weapons match, and it's very hard to stand out because what I've said earlier about, you know, WWE just likes to have certain rules with their weapons matches, and they do a lot of them because they get over. And you know, with someone like Stratton's experience, it's very easy to do a more smoke and mirrors kind of match than a wrestling match, which they also did a good job of a few weeks ago on NXT. But yeah, it was a very good weapons match, which is kind of hard to do in WWE because they do so many of them and they all kind of blend in together. But the crowd was into this, and they brawled throughout the crowd. I would say it was a very good match.
Now, there's a match that happened during this month that may have frustrated me more than any match I can think of in recent time. And that was Chad Gable versus Gunther from, this was the, where are we? The 9/4 edition of Raw. So earlier this month, this was the match where if Gunther won, he would officially become the longest reigning Intercontinental Champion of all time. This match had been built up over the last couple of weeks. Very, very well built. And you know, a fair amount of like heat and drama going into this match. Chad Gable's family were ringside. Just, you know, really just like, hey, this is the main event. This is an established belt with an established credible champion, an established credible challenger. Let's fucking do this. And I understand that there is an art form and a science to television wrestling, and I understand that television in America and commercials are the bane of my existence.
This was the biggest problem with the match.
And I don't know, like, look, I'm fucking some clown on the internet, so I don't know anything. But I would have thought when you have a match like this and the stakes like this, you would find a way to frame the match that you would get as much of that on television as possible.
I think they went through 2 commercial breaks, which is like, you could have done this earlier in the hour, and you could have just maybe at least had one. But after those 2 commercial breaks, they wrestled for maybe 5 minutes.
Yeah,
and it's like those 5 minutes were excellent.
Yeah,
I thought that was an excellent match. The problem is that nobody watched it in full because there were so many commercial breaks. But I think they uploaded on YouTube the next day, but it's not.
They
the
did,
same.
but that still had the commercial breaks in it, but not like it just, the instead of going to the commercials, it was like, hey, now we're going to commercials, and then it goes to black and then comes back to wherever they were. I have no idea why. I'm sure the rest of that footage is on the fucking film as well. Maybe it's I'm guessing there's like a kind of contractual obligation with the network.
Maybe with USA Network. Maybe with USA Network, yeah.
Yeah, and so I get that, but you got to find a way to when you have a match of this caliber to pace it out so someone could, because it kills the match.
Yeah.
Like, I have a hard enough time watching like the picture-in-picture stuff because the way I watch wrestling is I basically watch like the Canadian feed, so we get the picture-in-picture stuff. But even then, you're still watching like a fucking tiny screen. Like you still don't. It's just not the same as watching, like a pay-per-view match or whatever. And hey, they are pay-per-view matches for a reason. And it just frustrated me because the way the crowd were into it in the end, and the way they built up the crescendo, and the way that fucking Gunther had to murder death kill Gable to win this match. I guess the one thing you could say is like, hey, they could do, the kind of blow off to this on pay-per-view at some point in the near future. And I guess that would be fine, and you'd, get this match in full. But it just drove me up the wall. And, of the number of reasons I don't want to live in America, one of them is the way that you guys do you do network television drives me up the fucking wall. But
it's not great, especially WWE, where they feel like they have to put 2 commercial breaks in for the main event, which is like, I think you could have done a better choice of that. And Dynamite also suffers from the same problem where it's like there's a great match going on, but we have to do commercial break. It's kind of annoying, but that is the state of commercials on TV these days. There are a lot of them.
Yeah. And they're now thinking about introducing commercials into Netflix and Amazon Prime. And,
of course.
Because in fairness, they're not making any goddamn money. So, you kind of shoot yourselves in the foot with that one. Anything else from WWE? Payback happened.
I have no recollection of Payback.
Yeah,
honestly,
that was a show. Yeah,
that was a show. This next show is going to be whatever. A lot of tag matches. Let me go check on the dog while you talk about these mid pay-per-views. Okay.
We all good?
Someone was at the door, and every time someone's at the door, Bowser likes to freak out.
That's what dogs do.
That's what they do.
Okay, so that is it for WWE. Now, I haven't been able to watch any of it, but did you see any of the CMLL 90th anniversary show?
I've heard it was good. I did not watch any of it.
That is exactly where I am as well. I've heard
I
the
don't have
CMLL is a
time.
really good company, but I just not been able to.
I hear
Yeah,
it's much better than AAA, and
yeah.
for some reason I'm able to watch like Triple Mania. But even then, even now though, because they were on Saturdays, I can't because of Collision. So now it's like I don't even watch AAA anymore. It's well,
Okay.
whatever. I do hear it's much better than AAA, which
Okay.
there's some good stuff obviously in AAA with Vikingo and stuff, but that's
Yeah.
one thing.
Yeah.
But
So I've got a lot of CMLL to catch up on
yeah.
at some point this year. Frustratingly, but what are you gonna do? Okay, two last things I have to round off with, and they both involve young William Ospreay. First of all, from 17-9, Pro Wrestling Noah presents the 25th anniversary of Nomichi Marufuji. In what was a dream match, Nomichi Marufuji took on Will Ospreay in the main event at Korakuen Hall. Actually, no, was it? I think it was Korakuen Hall, wasn't it? Yes, it was. Yeah. And Will Ospreay has kind of stated quite clearly that Marufuji was one of his kind of inspirations growing up. I think you can see that in a lot of his wrestling style. And this was just a fucking great match. Marufuji is what he is at this point. He is, God, I want to say like early 40s. He's 44.
Somewhere around there, yeah.
He's 44, and he's every fucking bit of 44. Like that man is, he's not as banged up as Kenta. Like he still has the ability to dial back the clock when he needs to. But even in this match, you could see that he was having to kind of try and keep up with Ospreay. Similar, I guess, to the Jericho match at Wembley. But I think this was like a pace even above that. And Marufuji can still go a little bit quicker than Jericho can. But this was great. The crowd were into this. Ospreay was obviously in there with like an idol of his, and he showed that in the pre-match and in the post-match. And it's hard to know exactly how many more performances Marufuji can have at this level. But like I've watched I've not watched all of Marufuji's career. I've seen plenty of it. And this was up there probably just in terms of like the emotion and the that kind of cross-generational style of matchup of like the present and not quite the past, but I guess kind of getting to that stage now. So definitely worth checking out if you've not had a chance to see that one.
I did not watch this match. I did not have time, and I probably should go back and watch it. But I always liked Marufuji. Will Ospreay is one of the best in the world right now, so I would assume it's a very good match. But I haven't watched a ton of Marufuji lately. And he's mostly working tag matches and stuff. And
yeah. Look,
he's at that point in his career where he's doing a lot of tags and not so much. He's a big singles champion star.
Which and honestly, I think he's perfectly fine with that. I think he's more than happy to do the tags. I will hook you up if you need it because I think you should definitely see this. A match that I'm pretty sure you did see though from 24-9, Destruction in Kobe. Will Ospreay defeated Yota Tsuji to defend the now christened UK IWGP UK Heavyweight Championship. Look, Tsuji's booking since he's returned has been a number of losses, but this man just looks like a fucking star in every performance he has. And like by far, this is his best match since he's returned from excursion. And a part of that is the fact that he was in there with Will Ospreay, but this man has, for like New Japan specific, the most unique and dynamic style of wrestling and offense. And like as a shot in the arm to the main event scene for this company that it's kind of needed. Like they've had a trickle of main event wrestlers over the years that have wrestled, I guess, within that kind of like main event style. But Tsuji's does something so completely different where he like leans into the lucha in a way that other wrestlers have it there in the back pocket, but they never really go into it. Like Naito kind of brought the charisma over from Mexico, but he doesn't really kind of like lean into the heavy lucha in a way that Tsuji does.
Yeah.
This thing was just fucking incredible. Unbelievable match between these two.
This was a match where I saw Yota Tsuji and I thought that he is far more charismatic in the ring and overall as a personality than the other two that they're trying to push, Shota Umino and Ren Narita.
Yeah.
I think he far and away is going to come off as the biggest star because he just had that star quality in that match. And he's kind of shown it in other matches that I've seen with him since he's come back from Excursion. But this is the match where I'm like, he's incredible. He's very, 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 very good. And he's someone that should be talked about in leading the next generation of New Japan Pro Wrestling. The question is, when are they going to go with that? Because it won't be anytime soon because the main program for Wrestle Kingdom in January is going to be Sonata and Naito. But once you get through that and once you do whatever you need to do, it really should be Yota Tsuji's time, whether or not you're going to have him go with Naito or whether you're going to have him with Sonata or somebody else for maybe next year's Wrestle Kingdom in 2025. He is someone that you need to build on for the next year because he is that star. I don't know if people have gone behind him yet, but it's very clear who is going to be the strongest out of those three I mentioned earlier. And it's very clear. It was clear to me in this match that Yota Tsuji, he was just incredible. Will Ospreay is always incredible, and he had a fantastic, incredible match with Yota Tsuji. It's one of the probably one in maybe my top 10 matches of the year. The problem with the top 10 matches of the year is that there's so many now. I don't even know where to begin picking and choosing which match I think is incredible. But it's among there. I think it's in that level.
The thing with Yota Tsuji is that he is 30, so he has a fair few years to go.
They need to do it. They need to do it now. Then
I think you still have a couple of years if you really needed to before you went that way. But I do think with the way that New Japan or Gedo books, whenever they decide to turn that screw, to turn that dial, the rocket strap will be on, and we won't be looking back. I would probably make the case as well that you can do that sooner rather than later, because like past the Naito, potentially Sonata, but also potentially Evil Tokyo Dome match, there's no kind of obvious like direction that they can go next. Like, do you just go back to Okada again? I mean, you've pretty much done everything with Okada that you can do. Like, he's already at like living legend status, and the man is like fucking 34. I think it's insane.
He won the title very young.
So
he was like early 20s.
Yeah, he could never win the title again, and he's good. And the challenge they have with him now is like, because he's been the champ for the bulk of his career, what the fuck do you do with him now that he's not?
He is starting, I feel, at this point in his career, that his body is kind of like not where it was even a few years ago. Even more so with Tanahashi, who I was just reading earlier today. He's saying, "Well, if I won the title one more time, I'd be happy and then retire." And I'm like, I think your best days are behind you, Tana. Sorry.
Yeah.
He's like 45, and I think he's wrestling someone like who's beyond that.
Hiroshi is like, if Tanahashi decided to pack out tomorrow, I think that would be pretty fair.
But the thing is, with some of those guys, it's like they're going to be wrestling until they physically can't anymore, like Nakanishi or Tenzan, who's still wrestling, but is clearly can't do more than being in a tag match.
It's like, it's very rare that you find someone like Yuji Nagata that can, like Kojima, like, and Kojima is just on the fucking WrestleDream show. Yeah, but the thing with Suzuki is that man has taken about 4 bumps in his career.
Yeah,
so
he doesn't take a lot of bumps. He just gets a lot.
He got this one figured out. Yeah,
he got it figured out.
But yeah, with Tsuji, like, when they decide to go with him, I do think that they'll go all the way. And I think that you talk about like the 3 new Musketeers, and I do think that what I can see happening is basically they do not like a full rerun of Okada and Naito, but I do think there's an element of like Tsuji will get the Okada treatment because like he looks like a star, he has the presence of a star, and he's kind of got everything figured out. Where with Umino, I do think there's a little bit more of like the Naito thing, because like Naito spent a fair amount of his career just trying to figure out who he was, what he wanted to be. And you can see that with
I
Umino.
remember when first watching New Japan, it was like they were pushing him, and he had charisma a little bit, but people were not connecting with him like they're connecting with Okada. And then finally, he went to Mexico, came back, and he started the whole Los Ingobernables thing.
Yeah,
that's what really kicked off his career.
And like with Umino, you can clearly see, like you can literally fucking see it in his overall presentation, where there's bits of Tanahashi and there's bits of Naito and there's bits of this and there's bits of that. And I do think with him, it's probably that case where he's going to have these years, like right now, where he's trying to kind of figure stuff out.
Yeah.
And then at some point, whether it's an excursion to Mexico, whether it's this or whatever the case may be, and then he'll have that like kind of part, and it could just be a thing where his arc goes in a similar path to Naito's, where for this period of time where everyone is like, oh, it's Tsuji who's like the key kind of component of these three, but it could just be that Umino's time is going to come much later on. And then for Ren Narita, I don't know, maybe he has to go and get into MMA for a while and then come back and then he'll have it figured out. But I don't know.
Well, like there's something there with him. I can see why they want to go with him, but right now I just see him like Shibata Jr.
Yeah,
he needs to kind of shake that off. But it's hard because he comes to the ring wearing black trunks and it has all of his mannerisms, and it's like can't duplicate that.
I think the problem with Ren Narita, and it's not his fault, is what you probably wanted to do is have that passing of the torch with Shibata.
Yeah.
But the problem is that's never going to happen. Well, it's never going to happen in the Japanese ring, at least. Anyway,
they don't want him to wrestle in Japan. That's why he's doing AEW stuff.
Exactly. So, until you can have that passing of the torch, and you can have that, like, all right, Narita has kind of took that crown from like Shibata, he's always going to come across as like cosplaying Shibata and not having surpassed Shibata. And again, that's not his fault. And maybe you could say then, well, maybe he should be doing something else until that time can come. Possibly. But yeah, it's an unfortunate situation to be in that isn't really anyone's fault, but it is where we are. So
it is.
I think with that, that will wrap us up for this month. But before we go, Brian, as always, I'm going to start you off. Who's your wrestler for the month of September 2023?
I would go with. There's a few people coming to mind. Like there's Ilya Dragunov, there's Yota Tsuji, there's Will Ospreay. I might go with Bryan Danielson because he had a hell of a match with Ricky Starks, and he has been on a roll since coming back. It really speaks to him how good he is when he can come back and just still be awesome despite having a broken arm. I think he edges out most of the others, but Dragunov I also think should get honorable mention because he's been really working hard in NXT and having some really great matches in the last month. So honorable mention to him.
Yeah, I would go with Danielson as well. I do think that not only on top of that as well, but the fact that he's managed to come in and steer this ship back in, like, doing a bit of course correction, fitted straight into the feud with Ricky Starks, and has made that whole thing feel organic and logical when there was really no reason for it to do so. And then produce one of the best matches out of the year. Like, when you think about reasons to call Bryan Danielson one of the greatest, if not the greatest of all time, it's things like this that show why. So yeah, I'd be in agreement there. Your match of the month.
let's see. I actually gave 2 5-star matches this month. Yeah, so it would be between Ospreay and Tsuji and Danielson and Ricky Starks. I would probably go with Ospreay and Tsuji, because that was a really incredible match. And I don't want to say it's better than Danielson and Starks, because that was a brutal match, but I think that made me more excited, the Ospreay and Tsuji match, because you're seeing someone in real time becoming a big time star, or has the potential to be a big time star. And I saw that in that match with Yota Tsuji. His debut match with Sonata was very good, and you can tell that he had charisma and there was something there. This is the match where I confirmed, like, just his mannerisms and the charisma he had in the ring and all the stuff he did. It was very clear that even though he lost, that he really proved that he was like he is going to be like this major star that we're going to be talking about in years to come. And it was just an incredible match.
Yeah. I watched that match once. And I feel like I want to do a rewatch of that before I still haven't put a rating on that one yet. So for now, at least, I will go with Danielson and Starks, because as soon as that match ended, I went, well, that was 5 stars.
Yeah.
And it's been a while since I've just gone, yep, just that's a perfect match. I have no complaints about any of that. So I have gone with Danielson and Starks, but yeah, I'll watch Tsuji and Ospreay again at some point and see how I feel about it. Finally, your promotion of 2023 September.
This one's always tough, because it's like, what do you want to go with? Because I think, like, what promotion overall have I enjoyed the most out of this month? And honestly, you're gonna be stunned. I kind of like NXT. NXT had a lot of good stuff this month. I like
Alright.
I think I like the weekly shows, and I get what you say about NXT. I know you talked about that earlier, about some of the stuff is very corny. Some of the stuff is not good. There's a lot of inexperienced people on that show. But here's the things that I like about pro wrestling. I like to see new faces, which NXT does introduce a lot. And maybe they're not all knock them out of the park kind of stuff, but it's consistent. They do bring in new people. I like some of the acts. There's always a really good wrestling match now. Once they brought in the UK people from NXT UK, you're always going to get one match, at least one match a week, where it's like really good, whether it's Dragunov or Tyler Bate or Axiom, or one of these guys who just really, really, really works hard and has a great match. There's always one of those every week. There's a lot of main roster stars that's making the show more interesting. And I'm not going to say like it's the best TV show out of all the shows. I think Dynamite still, you can say Dynamite, maybe Collision. It depends, because AEW lately has kind of been way more hit or miss than it has been in recent months. So it's not a lock every month anymore that AEW is like consistently good, even though they have consistently good shows. And I thought WrestleDream was way better than No Mercy, but for what I like the most out of wrestling, I would probably go with NXT. So I know that's going to stun people, and I know it's not a perfect show by any means, but it's been a very solid, good show.
Yeah. If I had had a chance to watch all of it, and I've barely watched any of it, I should probably be technically saying Stardom because of the 5-star Grand Prix, but I just have not had a chance to catch up on any of that. So I will go with AEW just based off of the strength of All Out. But I do agree that the television still has some ways to go to get back to the highs that show has had, because it has been very patchy. And this whole, I'm just done with this MJF run. It's just
the MJF thing is really weird because we don't know where it's going. Like, are they going to be friends? Is it getting too silly now?
I
It is. I think it is kind of getting a little bit too silly.
I
But
don't
like
even care
you want to
about
have
that.
fun. Like you want to have fun, but it's like it's sometimes it's just getting too silly. But the crowd is also into it, so it's working in a way.
My bigger issue is simply just MJF as a character, and like I'm sick of his promos. As a wrestler, he's fine.
Yeah.
Like the idea of doing a handicap match with him and the Righteous was ridiculous. I just he's borderline like a mixture of like the worst tendencies of the Rock promos, but with like 2002 2003 era Triple H booking, and I just that it's lazy and it's beneath what he has the ability to do, and I'm just not a fan of it.
Mm. I am more like if it's working and if it's connecting with the crowd, then okay. But do I
But it's
like
not.
it?
I don't think it is.
Yeah, people ate up that Righteous match, even though I don't know where it would go in the star ratings. It wouldn't be high.
Mm.
But the crowd was into it, and they bought it. But I also agree that that shouldn't be where MJF is on a pay per view. He should be headlining it, and I think the numbers are going to show that. I think I don't know how WrestleDream did, but I don't think it's going to be. Oops, sorry, be that high.
Yeah. Well, with that, we are done for another month here at the Grap Up. As always, thank you very much for listening. You can always message me on X, Twitter at Lithium Project, and Brian Rose at BR26. We will be back next month. Topics for there will be WrestleDream, Fastlane, I guess. Maybe we'll do 2 minutes on that.
Yeah, because we didn't talk much about Payback, which was not a noteworthy show, and this really isn't. This isn't really building up to be a noteworthy show. I think we're going to get no noteworthy shows until Crown Jewel, whatever the Saudi Arabia show is.
I feel like the NXT show
Survivor
next week will be more notable.
Yeah, that's more noteworthy than Fastlane.
Yeah. So that is it for now. Thank you very much, as always, for listening. And we will see you again next month for another installment of the Grap Up.